I'm going to start with a couple of quotes from Zen teachers. Chinese master Wumen Huikai. In true Zen practice, our very eyebrows are tangled with those of our ancestral teachers, and we see with their eyes and hear with their ears. Keizan Jokin says, even if you seem to be a beginner, if in a single moment the mind is turned around to reveal its originally inherent qualities, nothing is lacking at all. Together with the realized ones, you will commune with the Buddhas. So my hope is that this talk will encourage you to keep going. I want to talk a little bit about keeping the precept of non-killing by taking care not to engage in entertaining the comparing mind. The comparing mind can kill the joy in our practice. In this talk, I also have one of my favorite Zen stories to share, and also want to share a little bit about Prajnatara, Bodhidharma's teacher. But mainly my hope is to just encourage you to keep bringing your whole heart to the practice. There's nothing more exhausting than a half-hearted effort. So wholeheartedness for you, it may not mean that you have to grit your teeth and clench your fists. Being wholehearted simply means just keep doing your best, which is what everybody's really been doing this whole time, without comparing your efforts to anything. So whatever that means to you. The meaning does not reside in the words, but a pivotal moment brings it forth. This is from the Precious Mirror Samadhi that we chant. This is a poem 1,000 years old or so. It's hilarious that the meaning does not reside in the words, but here we are listening to a bunch of words about it. And we've been gathering in these assemblies and talking with words and describing our own limited views and sharing our own limited views. And somehow in this connection, we may find that our view has expanded a little bit beyond our initial assumptions. Maybe things are different than we thought. Maybe we're inspired by someone's diligence. Maybe we realize we're not alone. We're not separate. Maybe we realize we are one Sangha body, a 60-headed dragon. I am pretty sure the Tenzo sees us that way. A dragon with 60 mouths. Here's a poem by Hafiz, a Persian poet mystic of the 14th century. Someone should start laughing. I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you? I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, what is God? If you think that the truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start wildly laughing now. It really is hilarious. Perhaps the issue is not in words as much as in the comparison. We don't even need words or discussion to awaken the comparing mind. We might compare ourselves and our experiences unfavorably to others, or what we think it's like for them, or compare ourselves unfavorably to our past experiences, however we've shifted and changed and rewritten them. We can call that the inner critic, comparing our experience unfavorably. We can project our own criticisms onto others and assume that others think poorly of us. We can worry about that. We can assume that others are having a much deeper, smoother, much more profound experience than we are, or a much less painful, more insightful experience than we are, that we do not measure up, that we are not good enough. All of that is the inner critic. Comparing. I was walking in the forest here, and I tried to imagine the forest saying to itself, you know, I wonder if I'm a good enough forest. What would that even be? Are my trees thick enough? Are my leaves turning colors too soon or too late? Are they not bright enough? Do people see the scars of the logging that happened here? No. This seems to be a uniquely human view. It's ridiculous when we see it applied to nature. And guess what? We are nature. We can also compare our experience to our own ideas of what it should be, comparing our reality unfavorably against our own concepts. I should have more samadhi, quieter mind, dazzling experiences. I loved that part in Hogan's talk the other day where he referenced the monastic who wanted to go off and be a hermit because it was too busy at the monastery. It was busy because people were attracted to the practice and apparently wanted to have, quote, dazzling experiences. That's a thing that people want. Maybe you want something like that. Maybe I want something like that. Maybe that happens sometimes. The dazzling experience of walking outside at Kinhin, seeing the sun shining on the dewdrops on the grass. The dazzling experience of just drinking tea and actually tasting it. Sometimes we don't get what we think we ought to. Sometimes we're surprised. I'm not sure which is worse, not having a dazzling experience or having a dazzling experience. Because having some insight, we then use as a measuring stick to compare our retreat to every single time after that. And then it may take years to stop expecting, hoping, comparing to that experience and trying to stop devaluing our current retreat experiences. Ask me how I know. We might try to accumulate some insight, to keep it, to make it mine. Insight does not accord with this. The more tightly you grasp, the more it flows through. What if I don't get something? What if I get it and lose it? Gain and loss are two of the 8 worldly winds. This is a helpful teaching, the 8 worldly winds. I love that they also rhyme. Pleasure and pain, fame and ill fame, praise and blame, loss and gain. The 8 worldly winds can blow us off course. We need steady focus. We need our anchor. We need equanimity to be with these experiences and see through them, see the truth of them. So here's my favorite story about the 8 worldly winds. It's about an 11th century Song dynasty, apparently Renaissance man who lived back then named Su Dongpo. He lived during the Song dynasty, was widely regarded as one of the most accomplished figures in classical Chinese literature. He wrote some famous poems, lyrics, prose, essays. He was an accomplished calligrapher, essayist, pharmacologist. He was trying to make alchemy pills for immortality. Apparently he did not succeed. Politician, travel writer. He was also a Zen practitioner. And about this aspect of his life, he's been quoted as saying, "Nobody who achieves enlightenment isn't extremely self-disciplined." I mean, that's a double negative. Maybe that's the poeticness of it, but you have to be extremely self-disciplined to achieve enlightenment. His teacher was named Fo Yin. They lived across a river from each other. One day, Su Dongpo felt inspired and wrote this poem. "I bow my head to the heaven within heaven. Hairline rays illuminating the universe. The 8 winds cannot move me, sitting still upon the purple golden lotus. I bow my head to the heaven within heaven. Hairline rays illuminating the universe. The 8 winds cannot move me, sitting still upon the purple golden lotus." Su Dongpo wanted to share this with his teacher, so he told a servant to hand carry this poem to Fo Yin's temple across the river. When Master Fo Yin read the poem, he just wrote the word fart on the manuscript and had it returned to Su Dongpo by the servant. Su Dongpo was shocked when he saw what the Zen master had written. How dare he insult me like this? Who does he think he is? What kind of teacher treats their students with such disrespect? Totally indignant, he got up and he ordered a boat to ferry him to the other side of the river immediately. When he got there, he jumped off and charged into the temple. He wanted to find Fo Yin and demand an apology. He got in there and he found Fo Yin's door closed. On the door was a piece of paper with the following 2 lines. "The 8 winds cannot move me. One fart blows me across the river." You have to be really disciplined for this enlightenment thing. Byron Katie says something about enlightenment. She says, "If you're enlightened, you'll love having your car towed away." And Ram Dass says, "If you think you're enlightened, go and spend a week with your family." The idea of enlightenment is only ever an idea. Diamond Sutra, chapter 7, says this. The Buddha said, "Let me ask you something, Subhuti. Has the Buddha attained enlightenment? And does he have a teaching to offer?" Subhuti said, "As I understand it, sir, there is no such thing as enlightenment, nor is there any teaching that is offered by the Buddha. And here is the reason. The Buddha has nothing to teach. The truth is ungraspable and inexpressible. It neither is nor is not. Every mature person knows that there is nothing to be known. Thank goodness for this part alone in the Diamond Sutra, because can you imagine a more insufferable being than someone who goes around saying, I'm enlightened? But you can also go in the other direction of conceptual attainment and say, I'm hopeless. I'm a lost cause. I can't even count my breaths to 2. I didn't even really taste my food until that last bite. I keep forgetting we have slow kinhin, and it's how many days into this? I should just give up. Well, none of that is true, useful, or kind. So what are we using as a measuring stick? Insights? Are there badges? Is there a double diamond run? Or am I on the bunny hill? What are we trying to get? I don't have very many skiing stories. I am from the Midwest. The attempts I have made have not been very successful. My friend Stacy took me skiing once, and we did take a wrong turn, and I ended up on probably, I think it was double blue diamond or something. I had not really been on skis before, honestly. And it wasn't pretty. I ended up sort of just like skiing down mostly on my butt, like going to one side and falling in a heap, and then another side and falling in a heap. And then I could hear kind of behind me coming down the hill this sound that sounded like, ee. And it was the cutest little 5-year-old in this pink little snowsuit, and she just had skis and no poles, and she was skiing down like this going, ee. And I'm just crying in a heap. There's always more to see. How can you measure anything? How can you measure an ocean of infinite depth? How am I doing is meaningless. Even enlightenment is negated. So the target is so large that there is no target. Unlike skiing, where the idea is to go fast or look cool or have fun, in our practice, if none of those things happen, we are still hitting the mark. If it's happening, we bow to it. We acknowledge it. We can be with it. We can watch it change. We can see what it wants to show us about reality, no matter what happens or doesn't happen. How do we work with insights that may or may not arise? Hogan used to say that an insight is worth $5 and a cup of coffee. But I suspect that's in the spirit of the Diamond Sutra, that insights are fine as long as we don't try to own them, as long as there's no I, me, and mine to it, as long as we're not trying to reify it. Just let it flow on. Maybe we realize that we've been living as if things were one way, and we can now see that things are just different than we thought. And this is really the same experience as realizing you've made a mistake. I've had a difficult relationship with mistakes. Maybe you have too. I have tried to avoid them at all costs, to be perfect, to do it right. I still do this. And Zen is both the perfect setting and a total nightmare for this kind of habit of mind. So one of my vows is to make mistakes with gusto. Because when I stop trying to avoid making mistakes or be embarrassed about them, it's actually kind of interesting. When it's happening, you don't know that you're making a mistake. You're going along thinking that you know. Nobody turns the wrong way down a one-way street on purpose. But when that happens, you find out really quickly what reality is. The thing about insights is that they don't have to arrive in a dazzling package. In fact, hitting the wall of reality less than gracefully is a fine way to receive an insight, if we let ourselves experience it without too much story. What is the teaching in this? What is the truth in this suffering? Where am I holding on to I, me, and mine? We're not in charge of these glimpses of the mystery. I think in the Christian tradition, maybe they call it the pearl of great price. The merchant, finding such a pearl, sold everything he had for it. He probably would have woken up at 3:50 in the morning for it. We're not in charge of whatever vistas might present themselves as we travel along the way together. We may also be traversing long expanses of desert. These dry times in practice have their own beauty. We don't have to try to get somewhere else. We don't have to try to get something, hope for something, or hope to be someone. Bodhidharma says, do not use your mind to seek mind. Do not look for something. When we're trying to see past the horizon, looking for something else, we miss what's here. I've been enjoying eating outside at dinner time under the canopies, just outside the kitchen. There's a lovely west-facing vista to look at, and everyone sits on one side of the tables facing the setting sun. And if you sit in the back, it's like being in a movie theater. It has that same community experience feeling of going to the movies and watching the show. What we're watching are the trees and the sky and the parking lot and the trash and the compost containers. It's all here. Nirvana. Where else would it be? So here's another teaching from Maizumi Roshi from Appreciate Your Life. We do not see that our life right here, right now, is nirvana. Maybe we think that nirvana is a place where there are no problems, no more delusions. Maybe we think nirvana is something very beautiful, something unattainable. We always think that nirvana is something very different from our own life, but we must really understand that nirvana is right here, right now. How is that possible? We can say that our practice is to close the gap between what we think our life is and our actual life as the subtle mind of nirvana. Or more to the point, how can we realize that there is really no gap to begin with? Why is this so difficult to do? Pin down what the difficulty is and where it comes up. Most of us know that this I is somehow blocking us. I am the one who does not see my life as the subtle mind of nirvana. I am the one who is not experiencing life as a treasure. He also says, what is it? What is this I that is blocking this realization? It is my dualistic functioning. There's nothing wrong with duality itself. That is how our mind functions. But as long as we remain in the confinement of duality, we are swayed by such opposing values as right and wrong, good and bad. These are only temporary aspects. Something appears sometimes to be good or bad, or right or wrong, or long or short, or big or small. But what is it overall? The same thing with our life. We must see what it is beyond duality. Our life literally comes down to right now. Now, here. What is it? What is it? One of my Zoomies, Ayers, had an answer for this question. What is it? It's not like anything. It's not like anything. This is from Daido Luri, a Dharma uncle. He founded Zen Mountain Monastery, was a great support to Chozen and Hogen as they founded Great Vow, as he offered them the wisdom of his mistakes he made in this grand experiment of Zen monasticism in the United States. Here's the whole quote. Inconceivably wondrous is the Buddha nature. Exquisitely all-pervading is no Buddha nature. It has nothing to do with cosmic consciousness or the divine self. Both Buddha nature and no Buddha nature exist in life and in death, as well as prior to life and death, and after life and death. Before there ever was scattering and no scattering, movement and stillness, being and non-being, there has always been Buddha nature and no Buddha nature. It is not metaphors, images, or thoughts. Indeed, it's not like anything. Don't be deluded. It is nothing other than what you do morning and night. It is nothing other than what you do morning and night. And I think Hogen Roshi often says, it's not a thing. It's nothing other than what you do morning and night. Something we have been doing is reciting the Diamond Sutra every day. Reciting the sutra has had some unexpected impacts on people in this retreat. There's been enjoyment and brightening for some people, excitement and energy, movement in the heart, movement to tears, maybe puzzlement, maybe irritation, boredom. It's all here. There's no need to try to make sense of this. The meaning does not reside in the words. So speaking of reciting sutras, I want to tell you about Prajnatara, Bodhidharma's teacher. Bodhidharma was the ancestor in our lineage who went from India to China and met up with Emperor Wu. They had that encounter in which Bodhidharma said the emperor's temple building would result in no merit. So it's perhaps also important to note that Bodhidharma's teacher, Prajnatara, is that some scholars think that Prajnatara may have been a woman. I love the idea that his teacher may have been a woman. even though this too is a construct as we're looking at it through the lens of the Diamond Sutra. But here's Prajnatara over there in that list of great teachers, what we call the lineage chart, the lineage chant, which maybe could be called the men's lineage, since we also have what we call the women's lineage. So there she is, Prajnatara, right before Bodhidharma. Prajnatara is said to have been an orphan who lived on the streets and didn't even know her own name. So she called herself Necklace. She made her living by begging. And one day she encountered her teacher, Punyamitra, who could see something in her, despite her extremely humble circumstances. And there's a koan about it, their encounter, when something like this. Prajnatara was asked by her teacher, "Do you remember events of the past?" She says, "I remember in a distant eon I was living in the same place as you. You were expounding a great wisdom, and I was reciting a most profound scripture. This event," they're meeting in this time, "this event is in accord with past cause." This event is in accord with past cause. Wait, aren't we supposed to drop the story? No past, no future, just this? There's something mysterious about the teacher-student relationship that goes way outside our ideas of what it is or what it should be, usually. So this interaction is pointing to a few things, including karma, that we are the inheritors, we are the beneficiaries of this world. These mysterious myriad causes and conditions are too complicated for us to ever truly know. And that there is no singular act or meeting, no singular or independent person. Nothing can be disconnected from anything else. When Punyamitra asks her, "Do you remember events of the past?" he's not asking her to catalog all the stupid things she ever did, like the inner critic might, or replay over and over again some conversation. It was wonderful, it was horrible, can't remember objectively anyway. It's not that kind of remembering events of the past. Do you remember events of the past is perhaps pointing to how completely we are embedded in the universe. How truly inseparable we all are, and it's all here right now. She became a powerful teacher in southern India, where she encountered Bodhidharma's father, who was a king there. She then later met the son, Bodhidharma, who would become her disciple. One day, a king of eastern India invited Prajnatara for a meal and maybe asked her to recite some sutras. Basically, sing for her supper or just, recite some sutras and receive some food in return. But she declined to do that. Instead, she offered him living teachings. Said, "No, I'm not going to recite sutras." The king asked, "Why don't you recite sutras?" Prajnatara said, "This poor follower of the way does not stay in the world of subject when breathing in, and has nothing to do with the world of objects when breathing out. I am always reciting the Suchness Sutra in millions and millions of volumes." Prajnatara, breathing without self or other. Thus the world is just as it is. This poor follower of the way does not stay in the world of subject when breathing in, and has nothing to do with the world of objects when breathing out. I am always reciting the Suchness Sutra in millions and millions of volumes. Is Prajnatara's teaching alive right now? Is it true right now? And here's that Daido Lori teaching again. Before there ever was scattering and no scattering, movement and stillness, being and non-being, there has always been Buddha nature and no Buddha nature. It is not metaphors, images, or thoughts. Indeed, it's not like anything. Don't be deluded. It is nothing other than what you do morning and night. It is not metaphors, images, or thoughts. Indeed, it is not like anything. Don't be deluded. It is nothing other than what you do morning and night. So let's keep going. Morning and night. Do not squander these precious days of practice with any future thinking, the judgments, the agendas. Let those go. Do not squander your life. This is a rare and precious time and opportunity. Continue to just do your best. That's all. Just do your best. In this way, you honor your own practice. You honor the practice of everyone here. You honor the teaching of the ancestors by living this moment. Thank you.